My friends, a little hyper tonight. Happy Valentine's Day. I have no Valentine this year. My heart is bleeding. So anyway, for our special Happy Valentine's Day show, I am going to focus on a romantic film. I just acquired this from channel patron Tim Tolbert. He gifted it to me. I'm not sure if he deliberately gave this to me as a Valentine's gift or not, but it couldn't be more apropos. This is the Shout Factory / Scream Factory Blu-ray of Stephen King's The Dead Zone Collector's Edition by David Cronenberg. We know that cat. It's a classic. This is a little slip cover. It's got some little special features we'll talk about in a minute, but here's the inner sleeve. Same artwork. Can you see it? Wow, okay. Sorry about the glare, man, and woman, and otherwise. So this is the reversible sleeve. The Blu-ray's in my player now. I'm watching it yet again. That's the original film poster we all know and love. This is also the original Johnny Smith. There's something funny that Cronenberg says about that. I'll try to remember to tell you guys. I got in this movie in 1992. Oh, hold on one sec. I must check on my kitty. Okay, so I'm back. I first saw The Dead Zone in 1992. I guess maybe February. Wow, okay, almost exactly 30 years ago. Wow. And yes, I rented it. I loved it immediately. I knew all about Christopher Walken, but I never really watched him closely in a movie before that one. I knew he'd won an Academy Award for The Deer Hunter. Supposedly he or his younger or older brother Glenn played on Guiding Light when they were kids in the early 1950s. This is when Christopher Walken was known as Ronnie Walken. So I don't know if Ronnie or Glenn, maybe neither one of them, adjusting this, maybe neither one of them played on Guiding Light, but supposedly they played young Michael Bauer, who grew up super fast. But anyway, yeah, so I knew about him. I also had seen trailers for The Dogs of War when it came out, and I really wanted to go see it. I love that big projectile gun he was holding. But this is really the first time I sat down and really kind of savored a role of his. And it's an indelible performance. I don't know. It still resonates with me. 30 years. Damn. Hold on one sec. One more intermission. Okay, I had to do some adjustments here. I'm sure the editing looks all screwed up. So The Dead Zone, was a Stephen King novel. It was a huge bestseller. It was optioned early on for a film. It passed through different hands. King had done a spin on the script. Ended up with David Cronenberg, and he wanted to do a project that was someone else's material for once. All of his work up to then was original material that he wrote and directed. Crimes of the Future, Stereo, Fast Company, even Rabid, Shivers, Scanners, Videodrome. Quite a repertoire of science fiction classics there. So this was his chance to go and do that. And he also didn't want apparently really the stress of writing it himself either. So he saw Jeffrey Boehm's script and loved it. And by his own estimation, this was the right move for him. He was very pleased with the results. Of course, it was a modest commercial success. I can't say it was a huge hit for Cronenberg. His first big hit was The Fly, which, according to him, made more money than all his other films combined. But The Dead Zone from 1983, this is really, it's Cronenberg at his most kind of emotive and soulful, passionate. Now, mind you, it still has a lot of the very clinical, austere kind of photography, that we've come to know and love from Mr. Cronenberg, and that balances well with the emotional part. Um, Mark Irwin shot this, and it's just stunning. The Blu-ray is incredible. In the beginning, you see the New England houses and stuff, and countryside. And I've got to say, I mean, I've seen this movie so many times, and it looks incredible. I don't know if it looked like this in the movie theater or not, but it's stunning. The colors are so sharp. Everything seems more intense. I mean, the detail comes out. Really excited about this. I watched it last night. I watched all the extras, and I'm replaying it as I watch this to keep kind of the mood going. Um, I don't know if you guys know the story or not. I'll quickly run through the plot of this thing. Maybe I could read it on the back of the box, or would you rather me tell you my spin on it? Okay, I'll give you my spin on it. I know that's what you really want. So Johnny Smith, yes, he deliberately has an everyman name. Johnny Smith is this New England school teacher, probably like late 20s, early 30s, kind of nerdy, and he's got a girlfriend played by the lovely Brooke Adams from Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Shockwaves and all kinds of other movies prior to this. And they're like deeply in love. And one night they come home together from a roller coaster ride where he has a really intense headache. That's kind of an omen for what's to come. Omen. I'm saying omen deliberately as a pun there. So they get home. Well, they get to her house, and she wants him to come inside. If you know what I mean. This being the early '80s, there was still a little coyness, I guess, about this stuff. And he says some things are worth waiting for, and already you've got these kind of highly nuanced deliveries. Like she's like, "You sure you won't come in?" He's like, "Better not." He's just like this crazy accent. I can't do it. Better not. And then he going home in the rain, he slams into a semi. So he's in a coma for 5 years. When he wakes up, he doesn't have any scars or any bandages, so he knows he's been out for a while. He's had time to heal. The doctor is played by Herbert Lom, and he's in charge of his care. Herbert Lom's really good in this. Dr. Wetzel, I never get his name right. I'll get more about him in a sec. But his parents come in. His parents are cool. His dad's just this cool kind of chill guy. His mom is this kind of emaciated, frightful, frightened, very very Christian lady who's really into her son, and she believes that God delivered him back to her. And then we soon find out that Johnny has what Sarah, played by Brooke Adams, calls the gift of second sight. So he can touch someone's hand or skin, and he will immediately see these kind of shocking images. This whole physical thing. And the way they shoot it and with the sound is really cool in the editing. I think Ronald Sanders, who did most of Cronenberg's movies, edits this. But yeah, so he can kind of see what's happening or what has happened or what may happen. Basically, just psychic impressions, seemingly at random from different people, but often very fortuitous. So next thing you know, the cops want him to help solve a crime with a Castle Rock serial killer. And Castle Rock, of course, is Stephen King's one of his many go-to locales, because all of his books take place in the same universe, so to speak, and interweave and such. So Castle Rock Killer is pretty nasty. He kills these women with open pair of medical scissors and stainless steel, and then of course mutilates their body and plays with their breasts. And of course, this is just exactly out of a giallo. I'm not sure that's on purpose or not. Well, so Johnny goes to the fair where the last girl has been snatched and killed. he gets all these psychic impressions and finds out that, believe it or not, it's the deputy who's been hanging out with him and the sheriff, Tom Skerritt. So it's right under their nose all the time. So supposedly he'd been doing this for years. And so, uh, you know, the gig is up. He goes home and administers the scissors on himself, kills himself. It's fairly grisly. Johnny, by grabbing his mother, the killer's mother, hand, inadvertently, I think, he realizes that she knew all along what he was. And she's played by Colleen Dewhurst. And I'm going to say this is the only performance in the movie that falls totally flat for me. But the good thing is, it's so over the top that it's hilarious. I actually laugh out loud every time, after they find the dead body of Dodd, the killer, and Johnny wheels around and he's at the top of the stairs, and the mother comes out of nowhere with this gun. She's like, yeah! And she like shoots him, and then Tom Skerritt shoots her, and she's like, she's got this ridiculous death scene. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a more ridiculous, few seconds in a Cronenberg movie. It's just, but it's so funny, I excuse it. I don't know if it's meant to be funny. Probably not. Because Johnny looks like he's really suffered. He's been shot here, and all this horrible stuff has happened. But at least they got rid of this the woman who aided and abetted her son, the serial killer. My son, the serial killer, the scissors killer. So after that, Sarah kind of comes to visit Johnny. Of course, Sarah has moved on. Sarah is married. She's got a 10-month-old kid. And Johnny's heartbroken. And this is kind of the theme that runs through the movie, is really that thread of this kind of tragedy. Johnny is like, between his powers, taking such a toll on him physically, and then recovering from the accident. He's kind of limping around with a cane. And then, of course, losing Sarah, he's like a haunted man. And when Tom Skerritt actually first comes to him and says, I want help with the serial killer, and he says something about God gave him his powers, and he's like, God threw a semi at me. He took my girl, my job, my legs are useless. God's been a real sport to me. Classic scene. So anyway, fast forwarding, Sarah decides Johnny's waited long enough, and she has sex with him while her infant by the husband is sleeping in the other room. Tacky, but anyway. But then she says, never again will it happen this way. And he's all messed up, but he still loves her. Of course, he holds nothing against her, and she's like the perfect woman. I mean, the thing is, he bottles his feelings up a lot, and his performance is so understated. He'll say the lines so softly, and then sometimes he'll mouth them and almost not even say them aloud, like for emphasis. And the way his lips curl and his eyes, and his eyes are really beautiful, I have to say, in this. And this is a masterful performance. I don't think he got nominated for any acting awards. I could be wrong. I know it didn't win any. Maybe it got a Saturn Award nomination. They're the kind of genre awards every year. But I don't know. I mean, it's spellbinding, really. I mean, it's really, the whole movie's really from his point of view. And Cronenberg deliberately made it so. Cronenberg wanted to tap into the elements of Stephen King's novel that what made it different than Stephen King's other novels. And like I said, there's a lot of extras in this Blu-ray, and they kind of give you a lot of the facts I've been giving you. I've gotten from these little mini featurettes. Some of them are archival, came out in the mid '80s, early '80s, around the time or after this movie came out, and then some are modern. There's a modern interview with Brooke Adams. It's weird to see her so old, but she's still cute, and she's still got that great voice. And really what a lot of the people say in the archival interviews and in the modern ones is that Stephen King had kind of reached an impasse with all these horror books, and they become huge sellers. Several of them become optioned as movies. Of course, Carrie was already a movie. The Shining was already a movie. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but I know those two were the big ones, early big ones. And he changed his approach with this book. According to they interview a guy who worked with the king around his early career, also, and the producers of this film, and then the people optioned it. Um, these were kind of the hands-on producers they interviewed, not the big producer, which was Dino De Laurentiis. Um, but they basically are in Congress here by stating that this brought up a different side of King, a more sensitive side, I guess. Ironically, Cronenberg, not on this disc, but in Cronenberg book, he states that King had written a pass on the script and that it was kind of shorn of a lot of the sensitivity, and King was writing it more for a hardcore horror audience. Now, Cronenberg doesn't say that on any of the interviews here, so I don't know. I got the impression years ago from that book that he despised King's screenplay and was like, I got to get Jeffrey Baum in here and salvage this thing. But that's not exactly what happened according to this information here. So anyway, regardless, between them, King and Baum and Cronenberg, they did bring those elements to the fore, and it's like Brooke Adams says in the interviews, it's got something for everyone. It's got these murders and this killing and then this love story. And he wanted me to be this perfect woman that like the audience, wanted to be with. And I don't know, it's a trip. Really just so much insight in this disc. And maybe I'm partial because I love it so much. But so many of the things that I've thought about it over the years, it's so cool to find out that I was right about a lot of the things that I'd been tuned into some of these things, and I appreciated a lot of the things that they were trying to do with this movie and put forth some of the more subtle, nuanced things. And that made me, oops, I can't drop my slip cover. This beautiful painting, I forgot the name of the artist. Let me slip that back in here for now. So, I don't know, it's really cool. I learned a lot, and it was a lot of fun. There's not hours and hours of extras, but they are like so well done, just like a lot of the Shout Factory extras. Shout Factory's kind of cornered the market on taking the 80s classic horror movies of all different kinds of subgenres and levels of popularity, stuff that was in the consciousness or even the subconscious, and really presenting all of them in this kind of like almost like a time capsule, and like this is how they were intended to be seen, and these extras put them in context and bring you back to that time of what went into the thinking behind them, the creation of them, and audience reaction to them. I've got several of these Scream Factory special editions, and they are the bomb. So maybe one day I'll sort them all together and show you. Anyway, so back to the movie. The next big, and the last big plot twist or plot point in the film, of course, is Greg Stilson, played by Martin Sheen. He's a guy running for Senate, and he believes that one day he'll become president of the United States. Now, of course, in a horrible twist, Sarah's husband is working for Stilson and trying to get Johnny to vote for him, and Johnny is oblivious. I mean, he's kind of holed up in his house because everyone wants him to help them by using his second sight to save them. And, he, more of that tragic stuff. So he has no idea who's in politics. There's a great scene where they first interview him about his power, and there's a real sleazy reporter, played by the guy who played the dude in Videodrome, who worked for Max, who actually was kind of planted by the evil people behind Videodrome, and he always called Max friend Patron. The world is getting soft. What does he say? North America is getting soft, Patron, and the world is getting hard. So it's the same guy, and he's even sleazier here, but not as funny. But he says, hey, when he finds out Johnny can touch people and see the visions, he's like, hey, take my hand, Johnny. Johnny's like, no, no, no. And he grabs him, and then Johnny, that's what I love about this character, and I love about the actor. and I love about characters like this. Characters that have so much nuance that they can turn on a dime and go from like really meek and mild and sensitive to when they need to be really strong and and hard, and I really, I like that about, obviously, I've talked about these characters a lot, and these are probably stupid examples to a lot of you. But Will Graham, as portrayed on Hannibal, is like this, and Charlie Cox on Daredevil, Matt Murdock, is like this. And Walken is really like this through the movie. Like, at first, he's kind of like mellow, and then when the guy kind of starts pushing him around, he's like, yeah, it's all right. He's like, no. He's like, it's not all right. It's not all right. And he's like, you want to know? You want to know what do you want to fortune tell? He's like, you want to know about your sister, why she killed herself? And of course, the guy's like, hey, I don't talk about that, you fucking freak. And that's when Johnny's mom kind of freaks out and has like a stroke or heart attack. And she passes soon after because she thinks they're hurting her son and everything. And so Johnny's just hanging out with his dad. I like the dynamic between him and the dad. I've never remembered the name of the actor who plays his dad, but he's a cool dad. There's a lot of humanity to this movie, and really kind of this, to me, this set the tone for Cronenberg going forward. In many ways, it was a blueprint for the next several movies of his. And also had some callbacks to Scanners and Videodrome, but definitely going forward, a different kind of protagonist, a different kind of fate for the protagonist, different kind of structure for the movie and vibe. So anyway, so Greg Stilson is running for Senate, and Johnny inadvertently finds out that, by shaking Stilson's hand, that he is going to destroy the world in a nuclear conflagration when he becomes president. And he's like, oh, it's my destiny. Now, that's another performance that's often called over the top, is Martin Sheen shouting at Stilson. And Cronenberg, in the archival interview, he's like, I think this in the archival and not a modern one. I can't remember. But in one of them, he says, I will defend that performance. It's not really over the top. If you think of the character and everything. And, Martin Sheen, of course, in real life is like a strong, leftist activist. He's been like arrested a million times for protesting. So he's kind of playing the guy who's like the antithesis of him. And obviously he's having a great time. Around this time, Johnny in the movie starts private tutoring kids for money. And this rich guy played by Anthony Zerbe, played in the Omega Man as the cult leader. Everything you knew, Neville, it's all gone. He's in this one, and he's kind of this rich, snobby guy, but his son's like kind of borderline autistic. And Johnny and him really bond, especially when Sarah comes to visit and then leaves, and Johnny's like emotionally devastated. He starts crying, and the little boy's like, what's wrong, Johnny? And Johnny hugs him. He learns that this little boy is going to die in this skating accident the next day. And he warns the dad. He's like, don't let him go. Don't let the boy go. Don't let the boy think I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. And the dad's like, of course I knew about you, but I hired you as a teacher, not a fortune teller. And he tries to, in order to get their attention, he swings the cane he carries, and he hits this vase and shatters it, and like the ice is gonna break. That's become kind of a classic scene and shot. The ice is gonna break. The way he's shaking. Anyway, I don't want to go all out with this because, even if I'm having make an accurate impression, I might be like too over the top. I might get shrill. Suffice to say, if you haven't seen it, you don't know what I'm talking about, but I hope you will. But if you have, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so, yeah, of course, another coincidence is that Stilson had come to Anthony Zerbe's house trying to get contributions because he was a rich guy. So Johnny's still getting these headaches, and he's kind of tormented, and he thinks he's dying. And so Herbert Lom, the doctor, is like, let me take you to the clinic permanently and let you live in a controlled environment. We can arrest some of this damage it's doing, to your brain. And Johnny's like, I want to ask you a question. He's like, if you could go back in time and kill Hitler, because Herbert Lom was a survivor of the Holocaust. as a child, and apparently he thought his mom died in the Holocaust. And then one of Johnny's early visions is him realizing that the doctor's mother is alive, and he's not sure, so he calls her and hears her voice and hangs up. And Johnny's like, "Did you talk to her?" He's like, "No, no, of course not. It was not meant to be." Another great, very measured, well toned performance by Herbert Long. And the yeah, so he asked him if you had a chance to go back in time and kill Hitler. And so Herbert Lom does this hilarious thing where he's like, I'm a doctor and I believe in alleviating suffering and sanctity of human life. And so you think he's going to say, of course not. And he's like, so I would have no other choice but to kill the son of a bitch. And so this is interesting to Johnny because he's kind of like, this is going to happen. But he also realizes from the situation with the ice breaking that once he warned them and the kid refused to go to the skating event, that he touched him again and saw his future as clear. He wasn't going to die. And so Johnny actually prevented it. He actually changed the future. So he's like, I can prevent Gregory Stilson from destroying the world, or most of it. And it's really his ultimate fate. He already may be dying. He's never going to get his love back. And he's a good guy at heart. He's just like, this is my destiny. He doesn't say that. And Martin Sheen's character says it. This is my destiny. And, but Walken is, I don't know. He's incredible. And so there's going to be a big Stilson rally. And of course, Sarah and the husband and the baby are going to be there. And Johnny goes with a rifle, and it's very solemn. And he's going to change things. And, he fires at Stilson and misses, and Stilson's goon bodyguard shoots him in the hand, and then he's like, and then he shoots him in the stomach, and Johnny falls off the balcony, and he falls into like an American flag, and of course Sarah goes to him, and she's like, why, and he's like, basically, he's not gonna, she would never understand. He wrote this letter before he left, and I don't think it's clear as to whether she received it or not. But before she comes over to him, is it before or after? Let me get this straight. I should know by now, right? Because Sarah goes over to him, and she tells him that she loves him, but also Stilson. I think Stilson comes over to him first, and they grab him, and of course he asks the line that is one of the most overused lines in all of movies when it comes to these kind of things. Who sent you? Who sent you? I don't know where, who first came up with that line. And he touches Stilson's hand, and he sees that Stilson now is ruined because he had used Sarah's baby as a human shield when Johnny started shooting. And so that kind of ruined his career, and he kills himself. And Johnny smiles when he sees his fish, and he's like, it's finished. No, he's like, it's over. You're finished. So anyway, he dies in Sarah's arms, and she's crying. And of course, that's a lot like what we see in the next Cronenberg movie, where Bronnie is crying over the remains of Brundlefly and crying, and then goes black. So the endings are very similar. And they're both love stories. So that's why I'm talking about this today on Halloween. Because several of the people interviewed on this Blu-ray say, this is a love story. And I think it is more than anything else, just like I kind of feel like The Fly is too. They make wonderful bookends. They're really my two favorite Cronenberg movies. I love his original conceptual stuff, all the earlier stuff. I love all of it. And I love that more from a cerebral point of view. I like the concepts. I like the execution of the concepts. But these two movies is kind of 1-2 punch, one after the other. It's more of an emotional and visceral quality that I love about them. And if you really want to extend it in a way to Dead Ringers, which is also definitely in my top 5 favorite Cronenbergs that came after The Fly, I wouldn't call it a love story unless you think it's a love story between the twin brothers, both played by Jeremy Irons. And maybe it is. Maybe it is a love story between them, and it has an equally tragic end. And Howard Shore is great at these kind of soaring, scores with tragedy, but he wasn't available for this movie, so Michael Kamen did the score, and the music is incredible. Now, of course, Michael Kamen is now deceased. I think he died relatively young. The last score of his that I remember that I really love, well, I can't forget it, is the score for the first X-Men movie, especially his piece called Logan and Rogue. It's just really beautifully melodic and simple. And when I saw it in the theater, I was kind of surprised that that would be used in a superhero movie, something that beautiful and kind of transcendent. But I think that movie itself was definitely the first Marvel superhero movie to transcend its genre, um, and one of the first of any by anybody of that kind of genre to kind of embrace the best elements and also kind of transcend the source material. Because I do think, and many fanboys will want to kill me for this, fan bros, but I really believe that the X-Men, at least the first two movies and Logan, I think they're better than like 95 to 97% of all the X-Men stories published in comics. Because I like the way the concepts are presented. I mean, anyway, that's a story for another day or dissertation, discourse, whatever for another day. So this is a beautiful Blu-ray. I'm trying to see if I forget anything. All those featurettes, yes, interview with Brooke Adams, theatrical trailer, TV spots. Yeah, new 2020 scan from the original negative. Yeah, this one has it all, man, as they say, or used to say. So that's my treat for you guys for Valentine's. Not much to it. You probably know all this if you've seen the movie. But this is my love letter, I guess you could say, to one of the very first genre movies in my life that I really, not the early ones, but one of the first in my more mature life, I guess, as going into adulthood, that I really emotionally attached to. The Fly was definitely one of the first. I saw that in the theater. But 6 years later, I saw this, and it really kind of cemented that, and it definitely cemented my interest in Cronenberg and my love for Cronenberg, because prior to this, I'd only seen The Fly and Scanners. I had not seen any of his other movies. So after this, I went and chased them down, and I also chased down a lot of walk-in movies, including Dogs of War, Deer Hunter, and he's great in all of them. So that is it, man. I'll be back with something else another day. But happy Valentine's Day. If you have somebody, you better treat them right, man. Rock on.